My name is Celeste King, 38 years old. I'd spent weeks planning my birthday, imagining a night where my family would finally come together, even if just for a few hours. The soul food restaurant in Jackson, Mississippi seemed perfect, warm, welcoming, and family owned, the kind of place where the air smells like cornbread and collard greens, and candles flicker softly against brick walls. I'd reserved the private room, ordered platters of fried catfish, collard greens, candied yams, and cornbread, enough for the five of us. My dad, my mom, my brother, my aunt, and me. Every detail mattered. I wanted it to feel like more than just another dinner. I wanted it to feel like family again. Owen was already there, adjusting the last balloon, teasing me about my over-the-top decorations. He looked impossibly calm in his button-down, even though I knew he hated dressing up. "You really went all out," he said, handing me a stack of napkins. "If they don't show, it's not your fault." I forced a laugh, though the knot in my stomach tightened. My family had a way of making me feel small, even when I'd spent years carrying their weight. My dad was the king of control, always reminding us of the family image. My mom, with her polite smile and cutting remarks, backed him up every time. My brother, chasing one failed business idea after another, relied on me financially, while my aunt thrived on gossip, stirring the pot wherever she went. And then there was Owen, the best thing in my life, yet the one they had never approved of. A mechanic with oil stains on his jeans, steady, loyal, real. They thought he didn't belong, and somehow that became their excuse to treat me like I didn't either. The morning of my birthday, I buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. I dressed carefully, navy blue, simple but elegant, my hair pinned just so. Owen helped me carry decorations and trays into the restaurant, joking about my obsessive attention to detail. "You're going to make this place look like a wedding," he said. I smiled, but my heart wasn't in it entirely. Then my phone buzzed. I thought it was my dad, a late apology, or a heads up about running late. I opened it and froze. "Don't expect anyone to show." 5 words. No explanation. No apology. My stomach dropped, my hands trembling as I stared at the screen. I reread it, thinking maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me, but the words burned themselves into my chest. Owen leaned in, concern in his eyes. "What is it?" They're not coming," I whispered. I opened social media for some clue, some miracle explanation, and instead, my heart sank deeper. There they were, my dad, my mom, my brother, and my aunt, all smiling by a Miami pool, sunglasses on, cocktails in hand. The caption read, "Finally together." No thought for me, not even a pretense of an excuse. Comments flooded in, friends, cousins, acquaintances, all celebrating, none mentioning me. My family hadn't just skipped my birthday, they had flaunted it. I felt something inside me snap. Years of covering their rent, bailing out my brother's failing businesses, handling their late payments, and this was the thanks? They had literally chosen to erase me from their lives for a few hours of Miami sun. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone across the room, to call them out right there and then, but I didn't. I locked it, took a deep breath, and looked at Owen. "They think they can humiliate me and keep cashing my checks," I said, my voice low but steady. "They're wrong." He squeezed my hand, eyes steady, unwavering. "Then show them," he said softly. We sat at the table meant for 10, just the two of us, surrounded by untouched platters of catfish, collard greens, and cornbread. Candles flickered, reflecting off empty chairs. The waiter gave us a sympathetic look and backed away. Owen tried to lighten the mood, joking about a balloon stuck to the ceiling, but I barely smiled. My mind raced, piecing together years of family dynamics, the constant expectation to provide, the subtle digs, the open disdain for Owen. Miami wasn't just a trip, it was a statement. You're not part of this family anymore. And yet, beneath the hurt, a fire ignited. For too long I had let their jabs slide, swallowed my pride, and carried their burdens. Not this time. I would hit back, not in anger, not with screaming, but with calculated precision. I had their weaknesses mapped out in my mind. The cheap rent they lived off, the failing businesses I supported, the years of favors taken for granted. I would make them understand that kindness wasn't weakness, That betrayal had consequences. As Owen reached for my hand across the table, I felt a strange clarity. The hurt was sharp, yes, but it was fueling resolve. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead. I was going to take back control, quietly, efficiently, and in a way that would leave them stunned. That night, I slept with a plan forming in the back of my mind. By morning, I would make sure they knew exactly what it meant to underestimate me. The morning after my birthday, I woke with a fire burning in my chest. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was financial, emotional, and strategic. For years, I had carried the weight of my family. Discounted rents, unpaid bills, bailing my brother out of failed ventures, absorbing my parents' constant judgment. But now, they'd shown me exactly who they were, and I knew it was time to act. Owen was still asleep when I headed to my home office, laptop open, coffee in hand. I started with the leases for the 3 apartment buildings where my family lived. For years, they'd enjoyed below-market rent, sometimes pennies on the dollar, while I covered repairs, property taxes, and late payments. That ended today. I drafted new leases, bringing each unit up to full market rate, $2,000 a month, effective in 30 days, in strict accordance with Mississippi law. No discussion, no exceptions, just numbers in black and white. Next, I turned to my brother's so-called business. His consulting firm, a string of half-baked schemes masquerading as ambition, leased the anchor unit in one of my first commercial properties. I'd given him a ridiculously low rate, $500 a month for a space worth $4,000, out of some misguided sense of family loyalty. That generosity had gone unappreciated. Now it was time to cut the cord. I called my real estate agent and ordered the strip mall listed for sale immediately. Within hours, a developer made a cash offer 20% above asking. My brother's lifeline was gone, and I didn't hesitate. By evening, the fallout began. My phone buzzed with messages, the first from my mother. "What is this about the rent going up? Call me." I ignored it. My brother followed with frantic texts. "You can't do this. That's my business." My aunt fired off a long, melodramatic rant about destroying the family legacy. And my father sent a terse message. "This is low, even for you." I read each one, my jaw clenched, but didn't respond. Their Miami stunt had cost them far more than a sunny weekend. They had underestimated me. That night, Owen watched me from across the kitchen table as I scrolled through the barrage of messages. "They didn't see you coming," he said, a faint smile on his lips. "You're going to make them regret underestimating you." I nodded, feeling a strange calm amid the chaos. This wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming power, about showing that the years of taken-for-granted generosity had limits. Every favor, every loan, every discounted rent had been exploited. Now it was their turn to face consequences. The next morning, my phone exploded. My brother sent desperate messages about how he couldn't afford the new rent, pleading to negotiate. My mom left voicemails about how family should stick together, while my dad threatened with icy finality. "You'll regret this." I deleted each one, letting their panic simmer in the silence I created. Then came the ultimate betrayal, a credit alert. Someone had attempted to open a $50,000 business loan in my name using my properties as collateral. My brother. He had gambled, hoping to bypass my control. I called the bank immediately, reported the fraud, and locked my credit. His scheme crumbled before it even began. Even as the adrenaline subsided, another tool appeared in my favor. An email from my attorney, Jennifer, revealed a trust fund left by my grandmother. Worth $500,000, it had a single condition. I could claim it only if I ceased financial support for my family. The timing was uncanny, just after I cut them off, just after the Miami humiliation. My grandmother had anticipated their greed, prepared a safety net for me, and now it was mine. That night, I told Owen everything. My brother tried to steal from me, my parents tried to guilt me, and my grandmother, she left a way out. We can finally build our own path. He took my hand, steady and unwavering. "Then we do it," he said. "We take the chance, together." With Nathan, my old college friend and trusted real estate broker, monitoring my brother's attempts to pitch my properties to shady developers, I had eyes on all fronts. My attorney would handle any legal overreach. I felt armored, invincible even, not with arrogance, but with clarity. My family had underestimated me, and now they were exposed. By the end of the week, the consequences were clear. The apartment buildings were locked into full market rent. The strip mall sale was moving forward. My family had no leverage, no safety net, and no excuse. They had gambled and lost. As I sat with Owen that night, sipping coffee and watching the city lights shimmer, I realized something deeper. This wasn't just revenge, it was liberation. Every betrayal, every slight, every overlooked kindness had shaped me into someone who wouldn't just endure, they would rise. And I was ready. 3 days after I'd raised the rent and listed the strip mall, there was a knock at my front door. My heart didn't race in surprise. It raced in anticipation. I already knew who it was. My dad, my mom, and the storm of guilt they carried like an invisible shield. Owen was at the shop, so it was just me standing in the quiet of my living room, facing the storm alone. They stepped in, my dad's jaw set, shoulders rigid, eyes scanning for weakness. My mom trailed slightly behind, her expression somewhere between apprehension and accusation. My first instinct was to stay silent, to let them feel the weight of their actions before they spoke. "You're being selfish," my dad said first, his voice sharp, accusatory, as if I were some child defying a parental edict. "Raising our rent, selling your brother's business space, this isn't you." I let the words hang. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the Miami stunt, no recognition of all the years I'd carried their burdens, just the usual accusations meant to guilt me. My mom stepped forward, her tone softer but still cutting. "We're your family, Celeste. You're tearing us apart over a tantrum." I crossed my arms, keeping my voice even, but my eyes blazing. "You chose Miami over my birthday," I said, my words deliberate. "You flaunted it online. Don't talk to me about family now." My dad's face reddened. "That was a family trip. You could have come if you weren't so stubborn." "Stubborn?" I let a bitter laugh escape me. "You didn't invite me. You didn't even hint at it. My stubbornness didn't erase your responsibility." My mom's voice trembled, trying a different angle. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We just needed time together. You've been so distant." I shook my head. "Distant? I've been carrying your weight for years. Rent, loans, endless favors. And you think distance is the problem? No, you made your choice." My dad stepped closer, pointing a finger. "You think you can cut us off? We built you up. You'd be nothing without us." I felt the heat rise, but I didn't flinch. "I built myself," I said, voice ice cold. "Those apartments, that strip mall, every penny, every deal. I did it. You've lived off me, not the other way around." My mom gasped, disbelief written across her face. "How can you say that? We're your parents." "Parents don't ditch their child's birthday and flaunt it online," I shot back. Silence fell over the room, the weight of my words sinking in. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't asking for forgiveness. I was stating facts. Before they could speak, my phone pinged with an alert. A credit inquiry. Someone had tried to open a loan in my name. My brother's name flashed on the screen. My anger spiked, a cold fury settling over me. "Did you know about this?" I asked, holding my phone up. They exchanged a glance. My mom's face paled. "He's desperate," she muttered. "He didn't mean any harm." "No harm?" I laughed sharply, bitter and raw. "He tried to steal from me." I called the bank right there, reporting the fraud. The loan was denied, my credit locked, and my brother's scheme dead in the water. My dad tried to interrupt. "You're overreacting. He's your brother. He needs help." "He needs to grow up," I said, cutting him off. "And so do you. Get out." My mom started to cry, real tears this time, but I didn't budge. The betrayal was too deep, the years of exploitation too long. I wasn't negotiating anymore. As the door closed behind them, I felt the tension drain slightly, but a new awareness settled in. My family had underestimated me, tried to control me, and failed. I wasn't just protecting my money, I was protecting myself, my agency, my life. Owen arrived an hour later, seeing my face, and pulled me into a hug. "What happened?" he asked softly. I told him everything, the confrontation, the attempted loan, the betrayal. "They think they can bully me," I said. "They don't know you at all, do they?" Owen whispered. I shook my head, a small, victorious smile breaking through. Later, my phone buzzed with messages from my brother, my aunt, my parents, all desperate, pleading, angry. I ignored them. Their Miami stunt, their attempts at fraud, their threats, all of it had exposed their true nature. I had no intention of responding. That night, I sat alone in the quiet, thinking about what had happened, feeling a mix of relief, anger, and anticipation. The confrontation wasn't the end, it was the beginning. I now had the upper hand, and I intended to use it. Something deeper than money had shifted that day. It wasn't just revenge, it was liberation. I realized that reclaiming my power was the first step in rewriting my story, and nothing would stand in my way. The morning after my confrontation, the house was quiet, almost deceptively so. Celeste King, 38 years old, sitting at my kitchen table, coffee steaming, mind racing. My phone pinged with a message from Nathan, my longtime friend and real estate broker. Urgency laced every word. Need to talk. It's about your brother. Can I come over? I didn't wait. I texted back. Come now. An hour later, Nathan arrived, his face tight, grim, carrying news that made my stomach twist. He didn't sugarcoat it. Your brother's been pitching your properties to investors, he said, voice low, claiming he has power of attorney over your portfolio. He's trying to sell your apartments to cover his debts. I froze, a mixture of fury and disbelief washing over me. My brother, who I'd bailed out countless times, lent money to, given office space at a fraction of its value, was trying to erase me. I leaned back, fingers clutching my coffee mug. He has nothing, I said, jaw tight. Everything's in my name. Nathan nodded, pulling out his phone. He's talking to investors, telling them you're unstable, that he's stepping in to manage the family assets. They're ready to close if you don't act fast. My blood ran cold. The betrayal wasn't just financial anymore. It was an attempt to erase my life's work, to rewrite history and make me powerless. I felt a mix of rage and grim determination settle in my chest. My brother had underestimated me, and now he'd get to see what I could do when pushed too far. I spent the day fortifying my defenses. I called my property manager, confirming every lease, every title, every lock on the records. No loopholes, no power of attorney, nothing for him to exploit. Then I emailed my attorney, Jennifer, to monitor any legal maneuvering. She'd always been sharp, and I needed her eyes on my brother like a hawk. And then, a note in my inbox changed everything. Jennifer had uncovered a trust fund from my grandmother I'd never known about, worth $500,000, tied to a single condition. I had to stop financially supporting my family. The timing was uncanny. I had just cut them off, raised the rent, sold the strip mall. My grandmother had anticipated this moment years ago. She'd left me a way out, a safety net, a form of justice disguised as generosity. I called Jennifer immediately. Is this for real? It's ironclad, she said, calm and precise. The trust is yours, but only if you maintain the cutoff. No rent discounts, no loans, no support. Your grandmother wanted you to stand on your own. I hung up, heart racing, hands trembling, but this was different from before. Relief mingled with resolve. Finally, I had leverage, freedom, and a plan. Owen arrived that evening, hearing the news as I paced the living room. My brother's trying to sell my properties, I said, voice tense with anger and disbelief. And my grandmother left me a trust fund, but only if I keep them cut off. He didn't flinch. He just held my hand, steady and unwavering. Your grandmother knew you'd need this. You're not alone, Celeste. Nathan's got your back. I've got yours. The next steps were clear. I spent hours digging into my brother's schemes, confirming every communication, flagging every inquiry about my properties. I left nothing to chance. If he thought he could pull one over on me, he was dead wrong. Every move I made tightened the noose around his desperation. By nightfall, a plan had formed. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was reclaiming what was mine, in every sense. Money, power, respect. The trust fund wasn't just financial security, it was freedom, the validation that I didn't need my family's approval to succeed. As I stared out the window at the quiet street, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about proving to myself that I could rise above betrayal, manipulation, and greed. The fire that had been simmering since Miami had transformed into purpose. Every text, every threat, every desperate plea from my family would meet the same response. Silence. That night, I drafted the plan for the next days. Monitor my brother, secure the trust, expand my investments, and finally, create a life without the constant drain of their expectations. For the first time in years, I felt the thrill of control, the intoxicating clarity of autonomy. The stakes had risen, the lines were drawn, and the battle had just begun. My family's greed would no longer dictate my life, and every move I made from now on would ensure they felt the consequences of underestimating me. I took a deep breath, letting the tension settle. Owen squeezed my hand, his calm presence grounding me. "They don't know what's coming," he said quietly. I smiled, a hint of steel in my eyes. "They have no idea." Morning light cut through the blinds, and I felt a strange calm, sharper than any anger I'd known. Celeste King, 38 years old, sitting at my desk, laptop open, coffee untouched beside me. The first step: secure the trust fund from my grandmother. Jennifer had already begun the paperwork, confirming the $500,000 would transfer as long as I maintained the financial cutoff. My hands shook slightly, not from fear, but anticipation. I reviewed my properties again. 6 apartment buildings, every lease locked, the strip mall already sold, every detail under my control. Nathan's calls kept me updated on my brother's schemes, each one more desperate than the last. He'd tried to push a developer into closing a deal, claiming authority he didn't have, but with Jennifer and my property manager watching, every attempt was thwarted. By afternoon, my phone buzzed incessantly. Texts, calls, emails from my brother, my parents, my aunt, each one dripping with panic, guilt, and veiled threats. He was pleading now, begging me to reconsider the rent, to stop the sale of his office space. My mother's voice left voicemails that trembled between sorrow and manipulation. My father's messages were blunt. "You're making enemies." I didn't answer, not a single one. Instead, I drafted an email outlining the situation in precise, unyielding terms. Market rate rent. No exceptions. No extensions. The strip mall sold. Finalized. Any further attempts to manipulate or deceive would be documented for legal action. Every word a nail in the coffin of their entitlement. Owen appeared in the doorway, holding a stack of folders. "Got everything organized for the trust transfer," he said, voice calm as ever. "Nathan said the investor who was talking to your brother is on hold. Nothing moves without your go-ahead." I exhaled, relief tempered with a quiet satisfaction. "This isn't just about money," I said. "It's about respect. They've taken advantage of me my whole life. Not anymore." By evening, the trust fund was in motion. $500,000, a buffer I'd never had before, ready to secure my independence and future ventures. But I didn't stop there. I called Nathan, walking him through a plan to monitor my family's movements, ensuring no more fraudulent attempts. "If they think they can pull something behind my back again," I told him, voice steady, "they'll regret it." Then came the confrontation I'd been waiting for. My family, having exhausted their attempts to manipulate me digitally, appeared at my doorstep, this time unannounced, humbled, tense. My father's jaw was tight, my mother's eyes wary. My brother, shifting uncomfortably, avoided meeting mine. My aunt's usual smugness was replaced by an uneasy silence. I didn't invite them in. I let them stand there, feeling the weight of their choices. "You think you can manipulate me with guilt, threats, or lies," I said, voice low but controlled. "You've crossed every line. The rent is market rate, the strip mall is sold, and my brother's schemes are dead in the water." My father opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "No excuses, no negotiations. You made your choice when you posted your Miami vacation over my birthday. Don't expect a do-over." My mother's face paled. "We didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered, almost pleading. "You did," I said. "Every decision since then has shown me where you stand. And now you're seeing the consequences." My brother finally spoke, voice small, desperate. I just wanted to fix things. I didn't mean..." "Too late," I interrupted. "Every favor I've extended, every loan, every discount, you used as leverage. That ends now." The silence that followed was heavy, punctuated only by the distant hum of the street outside. They had no answers, no solutions. They could only watch as I reclaimed what was mine, built my life on my terms, and secured the freedom my grandmother had fought to ensure I had. That night, Owen and I sat at the kitchen table, quiet for once. "They're learning," he said softly. "They underestimated you." "They always do," I murmured, a small smile breaking through. The fire that had once been rage had transformed into something steadier: clarity, control, and empowerment. In the days that followed, the repercussions rippled outward. My family moved out of my apartments, scrambling to find affordable housing. My brother's consulting firm dissolved. My father took a gig driving for rideshare apps. My mother picked up part-time work at a grocery store. Even my aunt, the perpetual critic, found herself in a small studio apartment, far from the life she'd flaunted. I didn't feel glee, just a quiet satisfaction. They had built their lives on my back, and now they faced the reality of independence without my support. I, on the other hand, had reclaimed my autonomy, fortified by my grandmother's foresight and my own resolve. With the $500,000 trust fund secured, I began planning the next chapter. King Properties, a real estate firm focused on affordable housing, co-led with Owen. Our partnership balanced between his practical know-how and my vision. Every apartment we purchased, every family we helped, was a testament to standing up, setting boundaries, and building a life we chose. The betrayal had been sharp. The fight had been long. But the lesson was undeniable. Family isn't always about blood. It's about respect, accountability, and mutual trust. And in that moment, as I watched Owen review the blueprints for our next property, I knew I had finally stepped into the life I deserved, leaving behind the shadows of manipulation and greed. I never thought I'd feel this calm standing in my own home, finally free of the weight my family had placed on me. The last weeks had been a whirlwind of confrontation, legal maneuvering, and tough decisions. Yet as I sat at the window watching the sunset spill gold across the city, I realized something. This was more than just revenge or reclaiming money. This was reclaiming myself. Owen leaned against the counter, a warm mug in his hands. "You did it," he said softly, eyes scanning the cityscape outside. "You really did it." I smiled, but it was quiet, reflective. "We did it," I corrected. Every late-night call with Nathan, every meticulous step with Jennifer, every ounce of courage I had, it had all built to this. Not just surviving, but thriving. The fallout for my family had been swift. My father, stripped of his entitlement, now drove for a rideshare app, a stark contrast to the man who once boasted about our family empire. My mother, once obsessed with appearances, took a part-time grocery job, her designer bags replaced with a simple tote. My brother had vanished into obscurity, his consulting firm gone, his schemes exposed. And my aunt, the relentless voice of drama, had retreated to a small studio, the walls closing in where once her social media boasted of luxury. I didn't rejoice in their downfall. It wasn't about cruelty. It was about consequence. Every choice they'd made had shaped this outcome. I only felt a quiet sense of justice, a recognition that I no longer had to bend, excuse, or compensate for their greed and negligence. King Properties had officially launched. Owen and I had spent weeks setting up the company, using my grandmother's trust fund as the foundation for our first acquisitions. Affordable housing in Jackson was our focus, helping families like the ones in my buildings who had never been given a fair chance. The work was fulfilling in a way that wealth alone never had been. It was tangible, meaningful, and ours. Evenings became our planning sessions. We mapped out renovations, tenant programs, and investment strategies. But more importantly, we celebrated small victories: a family moving into a renovated apartment, a child running through a safe courtyard, tenants writing notes of gratitude. Each moment was a reminder that life wasn't just about survival. It was about building something lasting, something real. Then came the moments of reflection. Alone, I thought about my grandmother, her foresight, her love stitched into the terms of her trust. She'd known my family's tendencies, their endless reliance, their entitlement. Yet she had also known my strength. That trust fund wasn't just money. It was a tool, a lifeline to remind me that I was capable of independence and growth. She had believed in me when others hadn't, and now I carried that belief forward in every decision I made. Sometimes I still thought about my family, the hurt, the betrayals, the Miami trip that had sparked the chain of events. But the anger had faded, replaced by clarity. They had chosen their path, and I had chosen mine. I wasn't bitter. I was empowered. I understood, finally, that love, especially in families, wasn't about blind loyalty or endless sacrifice. It was about respect, boundaries, and accountability. Owen squeezed my hand as we sat together one night, reviewing a new acquisition. "You've changed," he said, voice soft but steady. "Not just because of what you did to protect yourself, but because of what you're building." I nodded. He was right. The fight had shaped me, yes, but it had also clarified who I was and who I wanted to become. King Properties wasn't just a business. It was a legacy, a living testament to resilience, fairness, and the power of standing up for yourself. As the weeks turned into months, I noticed subtle shifts in my life. Friends and tenants trusted me more, seeing a person who didn't just talk but acted. I found myself mentoring young professionals in real estate, sharing lessons of negotiation, strategy, and emotional intelligence. Nathan remained a close ally, helping expand our network, while Jennifer ensured every legal decision fortified our foundation. Owen and I were partners in the truest sense, personal and professional lives intertwined, each supporting the other's strengths and covering weaknesses. Occasionally, a message from my family would still appear, a half-hearted apology from my mother, a pleading text from my brother, but I no longer felt compelled to respond. Their attempts no longer held power over me. I had learned that sometimes the best way to love someone is to let them face the natural consequences of their choices. In quiet moments, I would think back to that birthday. Candles flickering on a table meant for 10, Owen by my side, my family's absence palpable. That day had been a turning point, a catalyst for the life I was now living. It had hurt, yes, but it had also forced me to act, to reclaim my power, and ultimately to redefine family and success on my own terms. And in that understanding, I felt a profound peace. I had fought, I had bled, I had strategized, but most importantly, I had chosen myself. Standing by the window, watching the sun dip behind the Jackson skyline, I whispered to no one in particular, "This is mine. Everything I've built, every lesson I've learned, it's mine." Owen joined me silently, resting a hand on my shoulder. Together we watched the city glow. Together we embraced the future we had carved out, one of resilience, independence, and love earned on our own terms. Family, I realized, wasn't a guarantee. It wasn't always blood, and it wasn't always loyalty, but self-respect, integrity, and courage, those were mine to keep forever. And with that, I finally felt whole.